What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Welcome to Also Simplified, coming to you with a video here about the internet slash YouTube is full of liars, and that is never gonna change. Like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you didn't like it. Any feedback will do. Let's jump in to this one. So this video comes because a lot of like the feeds that I watch, there's this guy that I knew kind of was like a fraud or just corny from the day that I saw him. That apparently other people didn't see that, and then he came out. He's more in the, you could say manosphere adjacent space, or red pill, dead pill, whatever you want to call it space. Dude is like no fugazi or something, but he's super fugazi. And basically he just came out that one of the things he was promoting about single mothers or something, like basically he's a complete hypocrite. Telling people don't date him, and then he's basically been living with one. But that's really not the main focus of this. It's just the idea in this first point is that the internet is full of liars, and that's never going to change. Like, since the dawn of time, there have been liars and scammers, snake oil salesmen, people that were just trying to like pull a fast one, try to act like they can do something they cannot do to make money. Like, this is something that is never going to change. Now with social media, I think a lot of people have had an easier time promoting a voice, and then and promoting a voice and creating a character that you can, very meticulously almost create the image of without people actually seeing behind the curtain. Where back in the day, it's really hard to act like something all the time when people are judging your actual person. When you're judging like a virtual persona, there's so many aspects that people cannot see that you can hide and manufacture an image of, that it makes it a little bit easier to come off in this way. And this isn't something that is exclusive to the dating realm. He's just like the most recent, at least that's being pushed on my thread. But there's tons of people that have different businesses, or business advice. They're this multi-million-dollar business person, no idea how they ever made their money, and then you find out that they've been just making their money off of saying that they understand something they've never done themselves. I know Sam Bankman-Fried got all those people to invest all this money in his cryptocurrency that was just complete, sham and just kind of made up and all of that. So the idea that scammers are out there, liars are out there, is not something new. And anybody that is, watching YouTube or just on the internet at large and trying to gain information for themselves, it is a useful tool, but you have to have your own discernment to understand the real from the fake. And that kind of leads to the second point of how you actually do this. So the way you do this is really just being your own source of truth. Like, when you're trying to follow somebody, whatever type of lifestyle it could be, or whatever kind of information, make sure the person actually is living the life you ultimately want. And that kind of goes in two ways. One, what does it seem like their life is? So, if you're probably a younger dude, you probably look at some of this. I know the word Riz has been coming out all the time. Different things like that. When you look at any of these people, imagine what their life is behind the scenes. And is that the life you want to live? Are they actually doing anything of any substance? And that should be your first criteria. Then the second piece is, how did they get there? Now, I think that this is most important for business advice, and like in terms of how did they get there. That a lot of these business people you see on YouTube, their business is YouTube. It's not like they were making business before. So unless you're going to create a YouTube business or a content creation business, they actually really have no advice to give you. And I see this in basically every genre that they do this. You'll see a lot of these dating advice guys talk about money and how much money they make and how they use that in terms of their dating. Use your Instagram, use this. But it's like, you have a content creation business where that makes you look cool, where that is your number one attractor, that a normal person that is not doing that, not going to see those results. So you're sitting here trying to become this dude and not realizing half of what his understanding of game and seduction is coming from the fact that they manufactured a social media image that has a ton of followers that are actually following because they think that they know about dating, but their dating life is being held up by the fact that there's people following them. And it's like this, it's almost like a Ponzi scheme in terms of how they're doing it. They're selling it to you, and you can't do this. Now, when it comes to the money section, they're selling life coaching and different ways you can coach. And this could even be in terms of like creating, like I see it happen a lot in the fitness space. And I'm not saying that any of these people, especially the business people, can't be legit, but they're the ones that are illegitimate are doing what I'm saying. So they're amongst the legit ones, where they will basically teach you how to sell a coaching course on fitness, or teach you how to sell a coaching course on business, or their business is selling coaching to you on how to create a business, but they've never created an independent business that has nothing to do with coaching. They haven't actually personally trained all these different people. They're just teaching you how to create a coaching business, but their business is really just selling you on how to create a business. And it's like, you can see that it's this weird circular thing, that if you took away their ability to sell you the idea that they could do this in all of those realms, their dating life would not be supported by, if they couldn't sell you dating advice. The same thing, their business would not be supported if they couldn't sell you business advice. And a lot of times people are following these people thinking that they're giving them real information when they're just parroting information they got from someone else. And this is huge in self-development. They actually are not a developed person. They're just selling you the self-development that they read in a different book and just repackaged it into their own book. And a lot of these people are basically just the middleman of something that they've never done. And when you follow somebody like that, these are the people that you find out basically are not living the life that you thought they were living. Or you start trying to follow their path and realize it doesn't lead anywhere because they never actually even took that path. And that's where it kind of comes back to how I started this part of the topic, that you need to be your own source of truth. You have to sit down at some point, independently of what you see other people doing, and decide how you want your life to be. And this can be in all realms. That's why I'm kind of leaving this pretty open. It's just the idea of following somebody and believing in somebody that is fraudulent, which, you know, in my early 20s, there are different channels that I follow that now I'm like, how did you ever like pay attention to what they're saying? Everything they're saying is a joke. Like, it's not based on any substance. When you don't have any life experience, it's pretty hard to do this. But the first thing you really want to do and kind of work on is being that source of truth, deciding what you ultimately want. How do you want your life to look? And then when you're watching these people, before you buy everything they say hook, line, and sinker because they've said some fake credentials that actually don't mean anything, or they just have a bunch of followers that they bought, or basically parroted somebody else's talking points and basically got to run on the algorithm because it's, you know, it worked better at that time for whatever reason, or they have a look that's a little bit more appealing for whatever reason. So instead of following people like that, decide on what you want, look behind their life and see, is that the type of life I want to live? How did they actually get to this point? And think about these things before you buy what they say hook, line, and sinker. Because when you don't really understand that, or there aren't really super forthcoming about their background, what led them to this point, and it isn't something that is more independent. Like, for example, you've seen me, if you watch any of my videos, and I'm not saying I'm the biggest guru out there of anything. I'm not a guru. But you can see that I moved around, I've done things, I've mentioned the profession of selling. You can look back. I've read a bunch. So it's like there is substance that if and when this ever takes off, it's not like the information, if I start talking about the topic of selling, is just coming from stuff that I made up because it's a trendy topic. This is what I've been doing the last 7-8 years of my life. And same thing with fighting. You can look back and see all this. It's not like I'm just coming across, took a couple Muay Thai classes trying to act like I got hands. Or kicks and elbows, you know, if it's Muay Thai, but I digress. So it's really being able to take that step further of, number one, deciding what you want. So this will allow you to filter out and not just get caught up into the dreams and things that other people say you need to be, you know, the high value man or be XYZ, be alpha. Like, you should have your own definition of the man you want to be, or person you want to be, to keep this, you know, gender neutral for whoever's watching. So that's number one. And then from there, look behind the curtain and see the life that they're living. Look at the life that they're projecting. Do you feel like there's a match? Do you feel like there's a match between how they're saying they got there, what they're saying they can do, just off the cursory glance, but then also look at it in real life. Does what they're saying add up? Like, there's this dude, and whatever. I mean, at this point, I don't care. I don't gotta hide names. That dude, Wes Watson. I don't know how anybody goes to that guy and would get business advice. This guy doesn't know jack squat about business. Like, unless you were in prison for freaking 30 years or however long he was in there doing a 10-year bid, that they're doing the whole thing, and have all these stories and are just gonna scream into a camera or a phone as your marketing technique. This guy doesn't know crap about business. He could not teach you how to scale a brick and mortar business. He can't tell you how to scale a freaking fitness business. Like, his whole business is the fact that he went to jail and he screams around and he was apparently, you know, a shot caller. You remove any of that, who is that guy? That guy's a nobody. So why would you base business, a legit business, off of his advice? Like, makes zero sense. The same thing with these dudes that have these crazy Instagrams and they're taking all these freaking model pictures. Like, I'm not saying you can't emulate that, but like, for me, that's not really me. So I would never take that advice and think, oh, that's dating advice that's gonna work for me. I think I'm an attractive dude. Never walked out and really felt like that was the main determiner. And this is just for anybody else, because that Fugazi guy, that was like one of his big things. Like, he's tall or something. So that, none of that has ever made or broke my ability to get with a girl. Has never been an attractive thing. It's mostly logistics. And if I'm being honest, I feel like just meeting them at the right time, right place. It might have been the right time of the month. They might have just fallen out of something. They need a shoulder to cry on. You were there to scoop it up. When I look at when I get to the history of most of the girls I've been with, this is a complete digression because this video is just off the cuff. It's always been like they just broke up with somebody within the last 3 months or ended something the last 3 months. It's never really been something where, you know, yo, I'm so in love with this person, but I met you because you look smacks to the nth degree that now I'm gonna jump off of everything I was doing to meet with you. It had way more to do with the fact that you just moved here from Chicago and I happened to talk to you within your second week, and I'm the first person that shot my shot. You like what you saw, and we kept it moving. It's a timing thing, and it works the same in sales. Like, very rarely do you just convince somebody, especially on a big sale, completely off their timeline. It's that I called you, you had a problem, and it fit with the end of a subscription you already had, and you're willing to have the conversation. Like, that's really what it comes to, and that all is a huge digression. I know this is all over the place, but I'm just, you know, free flowing so I can get content, keep going up. I don't want to keep thinking too much about things and not making moves. But that's it for that one. So you have to really be your own compass. Decide what you want and be able to see behind. Look at how things actually happen in real life. Does this match up to what they're saying? And some of this might be you need to test it out and get your feedback. And then also look at how things have played out in your life, things you've observed. Do you see people doing the things that they're saying to do all the time? And do you think it would work? Because once again, going back to this stuff I've done in my early 20s, listening to some of this dating advice, you start looking like a weirdo, not realizing that the people you're listening to were way more socially awkward and behind the curve in terms of like sociability than I ever was. So when I'm listening to their steps and the things that they're doing, it's making me come off weirder because I'm already quote unquote cool. So even just things like that. And then the last piece is, at the end of the day, the internet is just a tool like anything else. There used to be, pamphlets and newspapers that used to be the propaganda machines. You'd read something in the newspaper that was, saying one thing, and then there's a different newspaper, and I forgot the terms they have for it, but I remember back in like 8th and 9th grade, learning about, early presidential elections, and I think they were called like muckrakers and stuff like that. That was the original way people were trying to convince the public and trick them. And then the TV and the hypodermic needle model, which basically was the whole idea that they were going to put these ads, and then the viewer was so passive that they would just be brainwashed like a hypodermic needle, and it would just go straight into their brain, and they're just going to believe it. That even early advertisement, that was how they were trying to persuade you and trick you and make you believe things. And how much things, even at a government level, when you hear a lot of the things in the last presidential race, a lot of, like, in terms of whether you were for Trump or not for Trump, whether you were for Kamala or not for Kamala, there was a lot of misinterpretations, misrepresentation of information on both sides. Like, this wasn't a one-side thing. And a lot of it was to trick people into believing that somebody is the savior and they have all your answers, where at the end of the day, nobody has all your answers. At the end of the day, all of your answers are going to have to come from you, or at the very least a question. And then you can go seek the answer. And it probably is not going to come from one source. It's probably going to come from multiple sources, because the question's coming from you, which nobody has the direct answer for you, which you're going to have to put everything together. You're going to have to show your work as if it was a math problem. But all this is tools. If you do want to learn about your business, you can find a lot of valuable information on business on YouTube. But you got to define, what do you want in business? What kind of business do you want to start? And what kind of people do you want to follow? Are you a ex-con and should be watching people that are coming from an ex-con background? How do you can monetize that? Or are you coming from more of a legitimate background where you want to create a brick and mortar store and do retail? You want to create a content brand. You want to do things like that. Or do you want to just have a job and figure out how to have a high paying job? The other way is, the other thing is, you could look at the dating realm. What kind of dating life do you want to have? Do you want to be, a freaking weirdo kind of person, like Fresh and Fit, like where they're like, I can't even imagine how they act in regular life. Like, I would not want to have any types of relationships that they create. Or do you want to have something that makes more sense to you in terms of the things that are in your head, and you're just going to take different pieces of information that fit with your particular inclinations and desires? What kind of work life do you want to have? What kind of fitness life do you want to have? Are you trying to be the aesthetic freak and you got to work on your pumps and your gains? Because I know from the fitness perspective, when I watch a lot of that stuff, that ain't really for me. I'm more into competing. I'm more into beating somebody's ass in a fair fist fight. Things of that sort, choking somebody out. That's more of the fitness that I like, and the things that I will watch, and the type of working out I want to build myself towards, rather than just how I look for somebody else's pleasure and amusement. So it's really a tool. Whatever you're trying to find, you can find on the internet, but you're going to have to understand that there are liars, there's scammers, there's people that are trying to take your attention, there's people trying to lead you astray, run you amok, bamboozle you. And you have to understand that, and you have to be cognizant enough to, one, define what you want, but then also be able to identify things that resonate with what you want. without, you know, being lost in the sauce of what other people are trying to pull you to. So that's really it for this one. If you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like, dislike, any feedback will do. And until next time, you know what it is. Peace.